what's up, family? This is Marseille, aka the Property Pastor, here with Kingdom Legacy Builders. Our mission is to help everyday people to create a lasting legacy for future generations using real estate investing and wealth building principles. Proverbs 13:22, it says that a good man leaves an inheritance for their children's children. And here at Kingdom Legacy Builders, we are all about teaching principles, teaching tools, and providing the resources that people need in order to create a legacy for their kids. I don't know about you, but in my life, people have helped me to get to where I am. And I want to pay that forward. I want to give that back. And I want my kids, when they start out in life, when they graduate from college and all that kind of good stuff, they get married, I want them to have something. My father blessed me tremendously by giving me a piece of land, helping me to build a house, right? And we want to empower you to do the exact same thing, if not more, for future generations. So today we're talking about, in our current series, how to buy your first rental property in the next year. How to buy your first rental property in the next 12 months, right? So we've been talking all about different subjects, but today we want to dig into what should you look for in a real estate agent. A real estate agent is a critical part of your team. They're going to help you find that property. They're going to help you, to go do showings. They'll walk you through the whole process of working through the bank, getting the inspections done, writing up the contracts, negotiations, all of that stuff. So your real estate agent is a critical member of your team. Now, before we get started, I want to remind you to make sure that you like this video as we're going through the content. If it's valuable to you, make sure you like this video. If you haven't done so yet, make sure that you subscribe to this channel, to the Property Pastors channel. We've got great interviews, great content, things that you want to be keyed into to help you along in your journey. But like I said, we're talking today about what do you look for in a real estate agent. And I want to give you some basic questions that you want to ask an agent. If you're doing interviews, as you're, looking for agents, it's more than just going on Google and saying, find me an agent. We can go on Zillow very easily and say, hey, I like this house, click a button and an agent will contact you. Now, that does not mean that that's your agent. That doesn't mean that's a great agent for you. That's just the person who's next up in line. And agents, they come in all shapes, forms, and fashions. And I want to give you some tools and some tips, right, so that you can select the best agent to help you to have a great experience when you're looking for your first property. So let's go over a few questions that you want to ask. Very first question is, do you work with real estate investors? Right. I think this is a very important question because agents may be working with what I consider retail buyers. So a retail buyer is just somebody, they've listed their house for sale, right? They've got, 2.5 kids, they got a dog, and they're looking for the white picket fence. So that agent may be catering towards that kind of buyer because that kind of buyer, they want, the best the best kitchens, the best bathrooms, immaculate tile, granite countertops, stainless steel appliances, and all of these things that they may be looking for. But as an investor, you're not necessarily looking for that. You're looking for somebody who can rent their property out, right? So if your agent, if they're used to working with retail buyers and not necessarily investors, you're going to have a big mismatch. You're going to deal with a lot of frustration, right? So you want to ask them whether or not they work with investors, right? But another thing is that you're going to be looking to buy at a discount, right? So if you're trying to buy, a home, say for example, is at $150,000 and you want to get a 20% discount on that, right? That's going to boil down to you're trying to buy it, $30,000 below its list price. Now that agent may be more motivated to try to sell on commission, right? So they may be steering you towards more expensive houses that are not going to cash flow and things of that nature, right? And their commission could suffer too. So if instead of getting a commission off of 150 grand, if they're only going to get it off of 120, they might not be quite as motivated to work with you. So you really want to understand whether or not that agent has or does work with investors. The next question that I always ask is, do you have any rental properties yourself? Right? Because if that agent has rental properties themselves, they're going to have a keen eye for what you're looking for. Like I mentioned, they're not going to be trying to steer you to properties that have the stainless steel everything and they're immaculate properties. They're not going to be looking for that because they understand that what you want as an investor, you want a property that's going to attract renters, right? Not buyers, right? So they're going to have that in mind. So you really got to understand, you want to ask and understand whether or not they own any properties themselves. Now, also, why I say that, they could also be your competition, right? So as an agent, they're going to see things, early on in the MLS, sometimes even before they see it, before it hits, and they may go after that property themselves. So it's a two-way street, but that's okay, right? But if you're working with an agent, it's important that they at least, at a minimum, understand what you want as a real estate investor, and they're not steering you towards more of a buyer condition or a retail buyer. Other thing is, do they have access to contractors, right? So if you're buying a property that's going to need some work, The agent is supposed to be a person that has many contacts, right? And that could be contractors, that's going to be appraisal folks, that's going to be inspectors, all of these kind of people that you need in a transaction. You want to make sure that your agent has good contacts. You know, like if the home needs repair, if you're buying it in a distressed condition, they can recommend a good handyman, a good contractor to help you to get that property to where it needs to be. Then the other question you want to ask them is, you know, what kind of lenders do they work with? Do they have access to investor-friendly lenders? Can they make referrals over to, you know, to a bank? You know, can they help you to get the pre-approval letters that you need? You know, so you may go to them and not be pre-approved yet. Now, I highly recommend that you go to your bank first. But if you haven't, you don't have those relationships, a good agent can also, you know, make recommendations to get you, you know, connected with a local bank to help you get started. So once you get started, you know, you've selected your agent, you think you got the right person, you want to keep your eye on things, how they go, right? It's one thing to interview well, so one thing, you know, to talk on the phone, right? But the agent actually has to perform. So as they're starting to send you listings, there's a few things you want to keep in mind as you evaluate that agent. First of all, do they know what I'm looking for? Right now, you as an investor, you need to specify your criteria. You need to tell them what kind of house you're looking for. You need to tell them what price range you're at. You need to tell them, you know, the number of bedrooms and all that kind of stuff. The things that are important to you, your buying criteria. You have to spell that out for the investor. And then you got to ask yourself, are they sending me listings that match my criteria? You know, so if I want duplexes and all they are sending me is single family homes, you know, maybe that's not going to work out. You know, or if I'm looking for 3-bedroom, 2 baths, and all they keep sending me is 2-bedroom, 1-bath houses, you know, maybe they're not really keyed into what you actually want. Next thing you want to look at is, are they responsive? You know, if you find that you're constantly chasing down your realtor, if your agent is not returning phone calls, your agent can't make time to do showings, right? You must ask yourself, is this agent too busy, or is this agent prioritizing me at the bottom where I need to be much higher? So you want to ask yourself, am I getting the attention that I actually need? Next thing you want to recognize or look for is, do they understand the market? Now, when I'm talking to my agent, I typically, one of the questions I'm going to ask them is, how much does this property will it rent for? You know, if we're doing a rehab, what's the ARV on the property? I typically run my own numbers, but I also want to check whether or not my agent knows their stuff, right? So certain neighborhoods, certain zip codes, what is the market rent in that area, and then what is the after repair value of that property? All right, so those things are important. So you really want to know whether or not that agent understands the market. So especially if you are investing out of state. Now, if you're local, typically you can kind of vet some of those things, but if you're investing out of state, that becomes very, very critical. The other thing is, do they have time for you? You know, like I mentioned earlier, if they're responsive, but if they're not responding, if they don't have time for you, you know, every time you call them, oh, I had to go here, or I had to call there, they don't return your calls after multiple days. They're late for showings. They're unorganized, right? All of these things, right? Their professional demeanor, you know, do they have time for you? Those are critical aspects that you want to look for in your agent, because that agent can really make or break. They can really make or break your business, you know, especially starting out for that very first property. I've talked to many first-time investors who their agent just wasn't performing, and before they know it, they've wasted 3 months. Right, time just keeps on going, and they're like, we still haven't found anything. And then finally, what they have to do, and this is what we all need to do as investors, is if they're not performing, we've got to make that decision to let them go and basically fire that agent, even though they haven't really done much in terms of transaction, but go and find another agent. So then we ask the question, how do I find a good agent? You know, so we've looked at this thing, and if you had to fire your previous agent, I know you probably got some frustration and some pain points, but then you may be asking, well, where do I get a good agent from in the first place? I believe that referrals are critical. So if you're working with other investors, you're networking, right, you should look for referrals. You know, we live in a digital age where, you know, folks have reviews by their names, and all of their history is very easy to access. But I think word of mouth is very important. So if you know if your mentor can refer a good agent to you, you know, I believe that your local REIA group is critical, right? Because what a lot of agents will do is they will network in those kind of circles. They'll go to local meetups, they'll be in Zoom calls and those kind of things, and they will advertise and offer their services, and other investors will let you know really quickly, yep, they're a good agent, or I wouldn't waste my time with them. So I think referrals are critical, but utilize your local REIA groups, and then on top of it, utilize the Facebook groups as well, right? There's so many different Facebook investor groups out here. here in this day and age where investors are actively in there. Sometimes they'll put listings. Sometimes, they may be looking at some of their own their own types of deals and whatnot. But you can find a good agent just through word of mouth, through referrals, through working with your local REIA groups, and be set up for success. My agent, I think the world of him. I've worked with multiple agents, over the years. And, I try to, make sure that my agents make sure they know what I want. I keep active listings going. We're always going to look out for a new property. So they really have building that relationship and them understanding what you want and understanding how they operate. That's a key partnership that you need as a part of your business. In addition, right, look on BiggerPockets, right? So BiggerPockets also has forums. They have networking opportunities. They have different listings and things of that nature. So if you go in there and you search your local area, you'll find agents listed on BiggerPockets as well that you can reach out to. So again, a good agent is critical to your business. They're going to help you to succeed. And just to recap, right? If they're not doing what you need them to do, they're not accessible, they don't know the market, pull the plug, right? Start over, start fresh. It's better, to just start over with a new agent than to keep stringing along with one who's not getting it done for you. Well, thanks for tuning into today's video. We've been talking all about what do you need to do to find a great agent. If this content's been valuable to you, make sure you like and subscribe to this channel. If you have questions, drop them in the comment section. I want to hear, and if you have other advice for the group, things that have helped you in your journey, help you to find a good agent, drop that in the comment section as well. This has been Marseille, aka the Property Pastor with Kingdom Legacy Builders. Thank you so much for tuning into today's video. Can't wait to see you again soon. God bless.